Hi, welcome to Tea Time with Amy and Bev.
Good morning.
Dave,
How
my
are you doing? How's your day going?
so far so good. Stayed up a little late last night and it's like 11:30. My husband gets up at like 4. I'm like, "Are you going to work tomorrow?" No. So stayed up a little late. And then I got my wheels spinning because we're getting ready to go for vacation out of the country. So super excited. So anyway,
Nice.
by the time everybody hears this recording, I will have already have come back. So, but that's where I'm at right now.
Nice. Nice. Nothing. We had a wonderful holiday. So just was wonderful with the kids and having fun. And
Nice.
yeah, it was a good flow.
That's awesome.
It is.
Um, I don't, there's not, it's been pretty quiet in my world lately. Um, I even did a full moon ceremony last week. Well, 2 weeks ago, by the time you see this. And I was talking about what things would you want to release and going through that whole process. And I'm like, what am I working on? What is it's coming up? But like it took me a little bit to get that flow. So I was like, wow, I must be doing pretty good here. So exciting.
Nice. I was gonna say, really, the only thing that's even came up for me at all is one of the things that came up for me last night was I was being told that we drop all the labels, all the labels, the labels of illness when we're searching for something, for an answer why we're having this problem or that problem. There is no problem, but we've heard so many things and we've said so many things. And when we talk to someone else, now we're in their vibrational frequency and we're having an understanding with where they're at. Maybe we're like, oh yeah, that really sucks, or just going along with the whole conversation. But it's to let go of the labels because none of it, it's what's created most of our stress. So, I mean, it seems like something so big, but this is the beginning of where I'm at with that. And we talked about it not that long ago too, was dropping the labels, but now it's even becoming more profound for me in a lot of ways. So I thought that was interesting to go that path. And that's not an easy thing to do because there's a tree and there's an angel, because I've got lots of angel statues and stuff. Um, there's uh there's an Amy and here's Bev. And it's like these are all labels that only encompass a portion. When you say the name Amy, it only encompasses a portion of Amy, because Amy is so much bigger than that, because it's not even Amy, it's an energy. So it gets kind of confusing when we're where we're at right now, playing this little human role. But
Well,
it is.
if you take that with we have a videos called Hurt People. So if you look at people, just, oh God, they're being an asshole today. You've just
Yeah,
labeled them, right? But the
yeah,
fact is, no, that person is just got something going on within them that is contributing to them acting out the way they are. And that could be something in the moment, or it could be something that happened 50 years ago, right? So that's still stored in their being. And so that's where I've learned, because through the forgiveness process that I've done, that compassion, when I look at people and they're behaving in a way that I don't agree with, it's not that I'm right and they're wrong. It's that's what they know how to do, and until they decide to do something different, that's how they're going to be. And it doesn't mean I need to hang out with them and try and change them and do all the coaching and whatever whatever I deem necessary. So, but just going along the lines of what you're talking about is labeling. And I get it, the easy stuff, right? Amy, Bev, tree, angel, like those are the easy things. But the bigger things, the jerks, the absolute people that get under your skin, the control freaks and the narcissists and all those. It's same practice. Takes a little bit more on your part, but it's still the same practice. If you're labeling them, then you're putting them in this box, and even those people are so much more than what they're portraying themselves to be at that time.
It's 100%. I was listening to Matt Kahn recently. I don't know if you watched his interview yet with Alex, but it was interesting.
I like
And
too. He's kind of
huh?
like now.
Oh yeah. This is the second one. This is the
Yeah.
most recent one.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
like him. He's fun.
yeah. Well, yeah, they were cracking me up too because they're how they were talking about, just some of the foods they were talking about, ketchup and
Yeah.
stuff like that, which was hilarious. Talking about, home homegrown tomatoes or tomatoes falling off the vine, and just they were just being silly.
Yeah.
But he was talking about on their boundaries, and I hadn't heard this before. But do you remember him talking about the boundaries? And we set boundaries because that's where our limitations are. We
Mhm.
can't that just that and he said we're so afraid to talk about our limitations, right? Because we're so afraid to be vulnerable. Not all of us, and we're certainly all learning. But he talks about we set up boundaries because that's our limits. Like I can only handle so much of listening to the news, and I've got a limit.
Right.
And why? Because my vibration's not as high. If I'm in a high vibration, I won't even notice that newscast even being playing on the TV or wherever. I won't even notice it
Yeah, you wouldn't even give it attention. You wouldn't even be drawn to it.
at
You
all.
you wouldn't have the inkling to even turn the TV on to watch the news.
Yeah. But if you watch back in our videos, you'll see that I've set my intentions before I've gone to family functions and how that's played out. It's wonderful. But that's playing out at that level that I was at.
Right.
So it doesn't even have to be at that space anymore. And I understand this now when you're trying to explain to someone else that's living in that space, they aren't ready to hear it typically. Most of them aren't. But you planted a seed, and then who knows what comes from it. And we planted a seed doesn't mean there's anything wrong, right? There's nothing wrong with the other person. This is just where they're at on their journey. This is just where I'm at on my journey. Someone's so much more evolved than I am. If you want to put it if we wanted to label it or put it in some sort of degrees or varying levels.
Yeah.
But it's I find all that interesting. I find the journey's changing, and I find that interesting. I do because I'm recognizing it. I'm recognizing, like you said, you've had a lot. It's been a little bit quieter lately, or I don't. It's been. I would say the same. I wouldn't say I've had 2 weeks off. Tomorrow will be 2 weeks. So, and I've been able to really enjoy myself. Really relax, enjoy the kids, my grandkids, enjoy the day, the weather. Not doesn't matter if it's cool or if it's warm, which today it feels like it's going to be a little bit warm. Yesterday was pretty warm, but
Yeah.
it's just being in that space and enjoying all those moments. And I think it was Matt Kahn that I was listening to, or maybe it was Kyle Cease talking about our breath. Our breath is so important. It might have been even somebody else, but our breath is so important. Everyone's talking about meditation and do this and do that, but our breath is important. Our breath is that's our energy, right? That's our life force that's coming in and out of us. So it's just even taking the time to breathe. I tell people all the time, we get so stressed out. Oh, I got to meditate. That back to the labels, right? I've got to meditate, and it's something that I'm doing instead of just being. It's simple, but we make all these chores because we know how to operate life with chores or things to do, accomplishments.
Right. Because then that makes us feel important and we get accolades and the attaboys, good jobs, to help us feel accepted and loved.
And I don't know. I guess at some point we'll probably be past it, but I enjoy those. I enjoy when someone says, you're really doing a great job.
Yeah.
But I'll turn around and tell them they're really doing a great job too. It feels good. But do I look forward to it? I think sometimes I have. Yeah, I think I have looked forward to it. And of course, when you have an attachment to an outcome, it never goes the way you expect it to go to or happen. So this is just such a learning journey that we're on.
And you're talking about the boundaries. It's and you talked about setting the intentions before going to be at a family gathering. We're always evolving, and I know this, and I'm just saying this for the audience, that if you go back and watch our videos almost 3 years ago, probably way different than we are today. So we're always evolving. We learn, we grow, we implement, or we learn, we implement, we grow. It's probably the process. We learn, we implement, we grow, and we keep evolving. And so, Bev and I say this quite often. Her and I are not immune to life. We still have our experiences, and we are still evolving as human beings. I think for the most part, we're just open to the ideas. We're open to the growth and expansion. We're open to the teachings. We're open to learning something new and implementing it. I think that's the key piece is, implement. You have to implement for things to change. And so, one thing that as my new journey in teaching classes and coaching was ground yourself, right? Just always come up, ground yourself, surround yourself with the angels and do this and do that. And then later, so I did, because our human side needs that. Our human side needs to be reminded that the angels are with us, God's with us, we're connected to the earth, we're connected to the heavens, we're connected, right? We have all this stuff, but to remind us is a practice to do it frequently, which is several times a day or once a day or whatever you need. But then, later on, the message came through that you really only got to do it once. You don't have to do it all the time. I was like, wow, really? It's not that I wanted to take that away from my plate of something else to do in my day, but it was like, it's true, right? We're always connected to God. We're always connected to angels. We're always connected to our loved ones in spirit. We're always connected to the ancestors. We're always connected to the earth. We always have all of it. So as your belief systems change, as your practices change, like you will change, you will evolve in a way that feels good for you at that time. And that's why it's called learning, implementing, and growing, because until you learn something new, you're not going to do anything different. It's the same thing with, I was in my mid 30s when I heard a teacher say, well, you can change your beliefs. It's a good thing I was sitting down, because I was like, what? I didn't know that till I was told that, right? So then I was told, I'm like, oh, well, there you have it. Shit's going to change now. So yeah, evolution, not only externally, but definitely within ourselves, is a constant.
Yes.
Constants based on all our experiences, all the people that we come into contact with. It is a constant for evolution.
It is. Thus the change, right? That's where change is important. It's always happening. It's always happening. We don't have to do anything with it. Just flow with it.
Right.
We put up so much resistance, and that's out of habit, right? And that's the thinking of the doing and all this stuff. And I'm not saying that you just sit at home and don't do anything at all. I'm just saying, listen to your intuition. Listen to what feels right for you. Because I did the same thing. I've had new people come in and they're so, well, I got to do this and I've got to do this and I've got to do that. And I'm like, okay. But eventually you won't have to. Eventually you'll be vibrating high enough or higher that that won't even cross your mind, because it's not even necessary, because there's no separation. How do you know? Awareness. If you're not paying attention to yourself, you're not going to have a clue when you dip down. So you can raise your vibration up higher instead of riding that. I don't even know what you would want to call it. Just like being in that space, stuck in the mud. Although stuck in the mud can give you a chance for rest and relaxation too. So it doesn't have to mean that you're stuck, because no matter what, we're constantly evolving. And as the world evolves, We're evolving. So our thoughts are going to change. The things that we believe are going to change. They are. Nothing's like set in stone.
No. And that's why people, I don't like change. Well, if you didn't change, you would still be a fetus in your mother's you wouldn't be in the human body. I mean, you just like you could go back so far with that. It's like change goes with evolution. Change. We gotta have it.
Thank goodness. Yeah, because people want to go back, right? They want to go back to where it felt comfortable to them. Well, and I would have said probably the same thing at one time. I wouldn't have minded to go back being a kid again, but I don't remember being a kid again. So do I really want to go back to being a kid again? I don't know. I'm enjoying being a kid with my grandkids.
There you have it. That's your opportunity to connect to that playful side of you, because you probably didn't have it. You probably had it, but not as much as you were when you were a child.
Yeah.
Same for me. So
Yeah. And I know my sister was born like within 2 years after, I mean, I think it was 19 months or something like that, 20 months. So not even a whole 2 years. So that would have changed the dynamics of everything too, for, giving the one child the attention versus now you're giving a baby attention. You don't have a whole lot of room to pay attention to the other one. Because you got to watch everything. You got to watch them so they don't choke. You got to watch them to make sure they're reading. I mean, there's a million things you pay attention to just to make sure they're okay. Just the concerns of being a parent.
and then add on top of that all the survival things, right? The job, the housekeeping, the commitments, all the stuff you add on top of that. Yeah.
So we learned how to be busy. That's really what all that taught us. We learned how to keep ourselves busy.
Right.
Stay out. If you're keeping yourself busy, if you're out doing the yard work, for me, if I was out doing something, they weren't going to bother me to do something else because I was already doing something, right? So they would leave me alone.
Yeah. Well,
So
that also comes with, I just talked about this the other day, is if like in my household with my grandparents, you didn't say you were bored and you weren't just sitting there doing nothing.
which is
Right?
crazy, right? Because
That wasn't allowed.
that's like heavy right there. If they were walking around cleaning, you damn well better be cleaning.
You better be doing something. Your feet
Yeah.
and body better be moving, doing something, and
And what is
not
that?
in their way. Don't be in
Yeah.
their way.
No, exactly. And then that's a whole different dynamics that creates so much that we've brought forward that we think we have to constantly be doing stuff all the time. I still see people doing it. It's like, okay, I don't try to offer them anything unless they're asking me for information, what I think about something, and then I'll give it to them, and I'll recognize that they still don't want to hear it, but they're taking the time because whether they paid me or whatever. Sometimes they just don't want to hear what we've got to say. I was the same way. Sometimes you don't want to hear. You might say, "Oh, I know," because I used to do that too. Probably have even still since then on occasion. Usually, I catch myself when I'm saying it. What am I saying? I know too, so I can make sure that I really do. I really know.
Right. Right.
So, but that comes down with the awareness too, because I want to. If I don't really know, I want to know. Like, show me the way.
Yep. And that goes along with I need to put on this facade that I'm smart enough, I'm good enough, I'm knowledgeable enough, right? So that I don't look like an idiot, so I don't look vulnerable. So it just is this perpetuating cycle if we don't change our beliefs and get into learning and growing.
And you don't get to know people when they're like that, honestly, because I've been one of those persons. You carry a mask with you everywhere you go. You carry a mask to church. You carry a mask to work. You carry a mask to when you go out with all the girls in the evening. You carry, I mean, there's always, you carry a mask or you wear a mask when you're with your kids, or you wear a mask when your kids' friends are over, or there's just a million different ways when you walk into the store, a lot of people do it. And that's just out of fear. You're just worried about somebody thinking that you're doing something wrong. And I've recognized that. I recognize that within myself. And I'm still recognizing it that I do that within myself. I still do it. not as much, but I have an awareness of it. And also recognizing when I'm doing something I just don't like anymore, like, why are you still doing that? And really
So
and
true.
really feeling that, like, well, you don't have to. It's just, and then having that inner dialogue with you and your inner child.
Yeah.
It's
I just did that. I committed to something. I did it 2 times in a week. I committed to something because I wanted that, well, that fixer mode, the people pleasing mode, the wanting to, feel accepted, all that stuff. Twice in 1 week to 2 different people, I made a commitment, and then I got home and I was like, why did you do that? Why did you are like thin on energy and time, and why would you compromise yourself and committing to something that's going to really hinder that, especially my time? And I was like, and I sent messages to both of them. It was 2 different occasions, and I was like, listen, I committed this and I have to apologize, right? I apologize, and just, I really cannot, I don't actually have the time to do this. So anyway, I expressed myself to them, and then sat with it. I was like, wow, you're really trying to be a people pleaser here, aren't you?
I totally hear you saying. I would say same. Someone else was having a thing, and then I'm thinking of all the ways back to that old habit of, now my mind's thinking of every single possible way. How could I possibly help them?
uh,
And it's they don't want the help yet because you could hear the conversation.
yeah,
So it's not that I'm holding back, but I'm trying to find some way to, same thing, so that they look at me differently, so that they appreciate me more. So whatever the reasons are,
yeah,
same thing, same thing. Not even necessary though, but that was because of the training that we received as children. I feel like.
right. And then past, my old person would have continued through it painfully,
Yes,
suffering. And then
and you honored yourself, which is awesome.
yeah. So to be, and that again is part of my evolution, to recognize it. I mean, even as soon as it came out of my mouth, I was like,
And control
girl,
it.
what are you doing? So then I had to go and sit with it and process it. I'm like, okay, what's going on here? You're showing up like this. What's going on? Right. And just have that inner inquiry, that's being self curious about myself, and then saying, I do, allowing myself, giving myself permission to say, I can't do this. Yes, I committed to it, but I was out of line by committing, and I can't do it. So,
Yeah, but from if you look at it from a bigger picture, now you're helping someone else recognize, hey, it's okay. It's okay if I have overcommitted myself, for me to go ahead and tell them I can't do it. And you also gave them an idea of how to do it.
well, the second person that I did it with, I sent her the message and she's like, oh, sorry, I wasn't going to do it anyway. Like, okay, great. Because we were going to meet and do something together. And I'm like, listen, I don't, and it was going to take about 2 to 4 hours. And I'm just like, no, I can't commit. Yeah, I got to back out of this one. And she's like, oh, it's all right. I don't feel like doing it anyway.
Still probably hoping to get someone else to be that motivation to help get her to do the thing,
Right.
whatever the thing was, when
And
it's just
she might have felt committed to do it because I committed to do it. So she would have
exactly.
showed up for me, and we both would have been miserable. So it was like, it worked out.
Yeah. And it's also to recognize, because sometimes I feel like we do things like that because they want us to, right? So it's, if we're not, that goes back to the part of the conversation about vibrating at a high vibration, and then we're not affected by things around us. But sometimes we're not. Sometimes we're almost a match to the person across from us, and next thing you know, we're saying things or doing things. It's like, God dang it, that's not really what I wanted. So when some of those times this happens to me, I stop and I'm like, was this my energy? Or is this energy that I'm feeling from the person that's really hopeful that I'm going to do this? I've heard psychics, psychic mediums say, I'll give them the information as I'm receiving it, not what they want to receive.
Yeah.
Because our wanting is palpable. And when you're connected like that and you're listening, you're now hearing it and you're feeling it, and you're in that person's energy at that moment.
All right.
So it's just recognizing, is this mine? Did I go ahead and do that for myself? Am I behaving this way? Just like we talked about recently, I go into the gym and all of a sudden I might be might have the different mask on, right? I'm that old mask that I used to wear, that I used to joke around and everything else. It doesn't resonate with me anymore. So now I just notice that I'll kind of smile, or I'll say, I don't really contribute much to the conversation. And I don't try to like always try to find like some guru type of answer to have for somebody, but it's just being aware. It's just being aware. It's just what feels good to me and what doesn't feel good. And getting, when you're so aware that you're so in touch with yourself, you're learning so much about yourself, that when something subtly doesn't feel right to you, you're already honoring that, and you're listening to it, and that's how you're moving forward, or you're navigating. So it's fun. It's fun unless we get caught, unless things are going like a snowball down the mountain, and you just can't slow it down, and you're just watching shit flying by you like, I don't know how to navigate this, what to do. You don't have to navigate anything, just let go, hold your hands in, and wait till it hits the bottom. Then you'll be okay. Then you can climb out of it or crawl out of it and make your way back up.
Everything comes to an end at some point. It all comes to an end. So,
Well, otherwise we'd still be non-physical.
right.
If we're in the non-physical, then we're in a space of joy, and we're in a space of bliss, and we're in this great space all the time. Here we have the luxury of feeling pain. We have the luxury of feeling anxiety, anger, sadness, joy. And then we have the awesomeness of being able to feel the difference between each one of them.
Right.
And then realize, no, this doesn't feel good to me. Although the first part of my life, most things didn't feel good to me, and I was still doing them anyways. I was working in jobs I certainly didn't want to be in, but really I wasn't happy on the inside at all.
Well, that all contributes to the addiction of the drama, the addiction of, because we want that. It creates that adrenaline rush when we're in the middle of drama, and our, senses are heightened and we're on high alert. And it's an addiction to not only the suffering, because that's what we believe we deserve, but it's also an addiction to what's going on in our body with the is it the cortisol, the adrenaline, like all that's amplified when you're stressed out.
Well, it totally affects your blood sugars and everything like that. That's a snowball effect right there.
Yeah, and then that contributes to the other addiction of smoking and sugar and eating and shopping and porn and all the other stuff. So it's like, that's your snowball. You're flailing in this snowball as it's rolling and has all this momentum, and either you ride it out till it stops, or you figure out something to do different.
Yeah, because that's all distraction.
Do what?
I said that's all distraction. Addiction is distraction to me. You're just distracting yourself from yourself, because sometimes we can't deal with the emotional feelings that we have within inside, and then it's learning how to just take a little tiny bite at it, just a little tiny piece of it, instead of trying to overcome everything at one time.
Yeah, I've been on this journey for 20 years, and every time I say that, I'm just like, wow, look at me go, right? I celebrate it now. In the beginning, I was hitting walls and tripping over speed bumps and all kinds of shit. It was you just would have put me in bubble wrap, because I just felt like everything went sideways. And but the more I practice and change and evolve and learn and grow, it's like I said, doing that full moon ceremony. What am I struggling with? I had to really dig deep. What am I struggling with anything right now? So.
Yeah, I imagine it would get to the point of you're like reaching for just things. I just want to remove any blocks that I might have on my path. I mean, then it becomes so generic, right? Instead of so But that's where the energy's at right now. I feel like it is kind of in that space. You would have to be reaching for. I feel like you would be reaching for something because that's how it just feels lately.
Well, it just also affirmed to me like I'm not focused on that stuff.
True.
Right. So full moon, so the audience knows the full moon during a full moon is a time of releasing. So anything you're hanging on to, attachments as far as situations and people of the past that are still causing those uncomfortable emotions within yourself. Those are, or maybe you're in the middle of something right now. Maybe you're in a divorce or losing a job or anything that's creating that unsettledness within yourself. Those would be the things that we want to bring up and out. Write them. Writing is a great way to do that, and then do your own ceremony of releasing it, which I use burning fire to burn the paper. And I call in my angels and God and ask them to help me transmute all that back into love, and that I don't need to hang on to it. So then with the new moon is about setting your intentions. What do you want to bring to yourself? What do you want? And it's so much easier now to do the new moon ceremony than it is the full moon ceremony. Now, back in the day, 20 years plus years ago, the full moon ceremony was way easier for the releasing because I knew all kinds of shit I wanted to get rid of. And the new moon ceremony, I didn't like it because I didn't know what I wanted. And now that just shows that in my evolution that how much I have changed polarities. Now I'm more focused on what I want to intend, my intentions, my wants, my desires, my goals. And it's like I'm not looking back well, I'm not to say anymore, but far less than what I used to. So that's great. So when you get to a point like that where you can just look at yourself and go, wow, look where I'm at, look where I was. I feel amazing about it. And that, just talking about it out loud, because I really hadn't talked about it, is a huge acknowledgement. And we need those every once in a while so we can be our own cheerleader, right? Because we don't always get those accolades that we can cheer ourselves on and be like, dang, look at you go, girl. Not even, you got to figure out, you got to dig deep into something you're trying to release during a full moon ceremony. That is phenomenal. That is so good. So,
It is. It is. And it's just like we've talked about so many times. Really just honoring yourself and looking at all the things you do good in the day. I think that we think we do so much bad because I say that because I know I have felt this way, that we do so many things that are bad and wrong that we're not worthy of anything, but we don't ever stop and look at all the good stuff. And if we started looking at all the good stuff, we would find that there was far more of the good stuff than there is of the bad stuff, what we would label as bad, that just doesn't feel good. And the being your cheerleader in those times when you feel like you're stuck, that's the time. Like, go back to your notebook and like because you keep a notebook and stuff, and go back to a notebook where you've journaled, hopefully, and written down stuff that you've been doing good and how much you've evolved and things that have changed. Because it is, gosh, it makes you feel unstuck when you start looking at all the stuff that you like. Oh my gosh, I really have come a long way. And of course, I guess if I took my own advice too, listen to our first video or two, I'd probably be like, who the hell is that? Man, she used to believe that shit.
right.
I say it like that because you go with what we resonate with, and it was just that was a doorway. That was a doorway to get you into paying attention to yourself. There was a doorway for us for our ascension. The smallest little things, and then as time goes over, or as time flows, we start changing. We start changing and noticing all those things, and it's a wonderful thing because I'm so glad that I am the person that I am today than I was before, because I wasn't even happy on the inside. And that's a whole big thing too.
I've heard, because you think about people ask when you're on your transformation journey, when you've kind of gotten on the other side of all the bullshit and you're on this more rewarding path, which I would equate myself to right now is would you go back and change any of it? And I have not heard one teacher, one author, I've not heard anybody say yes, I would go back and change it. And I've also heard a handful of people who were born into families, or, you know, at least a parent or parents that had a meditation practice, that had some kind of not religious practice, but spiritual practice, that, and even they were unsettled. They grew up having these tools. And then when they got to where they were out on their own, they went like in a whole different direction with chaos and drama and all the stuff, and then came back to the practices that they were born into with their family. And it's like, wow, we learn through the hardships, we learn through the difficult moments, the challenges. And if it was just easy breezy piece of cake, some people do have that life, and it's probably because they're very old souls. And I'm trying to explain this away right now, so that they're probably very old souls, and they're here to show us, they're here to be examples of that. Yes, you can have money. Yes, you can love life and love people and all the things, like you can do all that. And those people, I feel like they're here to be examples for us, and they have an extremely amazing life. And then there's also people like that who they actually had a really, really, really difficult childhood. And when they became old enough to discern life, the rest of their life was amazing. Like there's those stories as well. So yeah, even as much as it sucked, if I hadn't gone through what I went through, I wouldn't have taken the path I had taken, and I wouldn't be here. I physically would not be on this planet, guaranteed. So it took challenges. It took asking the questions. What else is there for life? What is life all about? Why are we in these physical bodies? Why are we born and we die? What's the purpose, right? And all those questions that come along with that. Because I kept asking those questions internally, it wasn't an external question. I kept getting the guidance, and it was presented to me in a way that I could receive it at that time. Now, I just mentioned I've been doing this journey for like 20 years of transformation, still going through transformation process. As I mentioned, 2 people in a week, I overcommitted myself. And it's okay. Some people get it easy peasy. They can make a change within a year. Some people are slower, on a different journey, different path, but we get the information at the time in which we can receive it and be ready to make those or implement it and make those changes. And so there's no comparison of the journey. There's no comparison between me and Bev and our journeys. We're here. She sees things differently than I do sometimes, and it brings awareness. I'm like, wow, okay, I didn't think about that like that. And I've been on this journey much longer than she has, and we're still helping each other. We're still encouraging each other. We're still come here every week and have these conversations, and we still learn from each other. And so it's amazing that we're not here to do this by ourselves.
Absolutely not. Ever. And we're never by ourselves. We're just never by ourselves. I guess the more that we can start, everyone can start seeing that, that'll be another huge evolution.
Yeah.
Huge.
I just listened again. Alex just released another video of this guy who had a near-death experience, and his explanation of what he experienced on the other side, and all this stuff. And it was really a great listen. You know, it was very good. And what I found too, though, is some of the things that he said were similar to what I read in Sylvia Browne's book, which got me on this journey at 28.
Gotcha.
So I was like, interesting. Isn't that interesting? Here we are 20 years later. Well, 28, 25 years later. Holy hell. So amazing that I'm hearing the same information again.
It is, and it's been said for a long time and it continues a million different directions, right? A million different ways.
So our
But one
spirit
of
has
those ways, right? It just has to show up. That's all. One of those ways just has to show up that we hear it and we grab a hold of it.
what what is it when you it's like on the cartoons and stuff when there's something go by and they grab onto it and they're just like phew, whip through, you know, it's like the fast track or something.
Yeah. That's like real stuff right there.
Yeah.
When we do grab a hold of something, it totally changes the way we look at everything. Just like the just dropping the labels, just looking around, just looking at the mountains without calling them mountains or the tree or the Spanish daggers or the grass or whatever, the dogs, the cats, the critters. And of course, me, I'm always walking around outside like, oh, keep them all safe. Well, they can't all stay safe. Someone's going to have to die. I mean, that's the way it goes because it's survival, right? It's the circle of life.
And then one of the great things too wanted to mention is this the interview I listened to with Alex is this guy grew up Catholic and his dad was in the Marine Corps. Now, if you know anything about the Marine Corps, they get set in their ways and that's the way it is. And then you add Catholicism on top of it. Oh my. And so this guy had quite the upbringing, and then he has this near-death experience, has this incredible experience on the other side and all this information that he was brought forward, and now he's just like, his dad still goes to church and still set in his ways, and this gentleman, he's like, yeah, he still encouraged me to go to Catholic church, but I'm like, no, I don't think so.
Because he was opened up to something much bigger.
Something else. And those, I think that, like the near-death experiences, those people are having those experiences so they can come back and share with us. And if anything, it brings hope, especially to people, what I find, especially to people who have lost children. I think they're the ones that are impacted the most. Yes, it's it can feel hard when you lose family members or close friends, but people who have lost children, I don't know what that's like. I can't even imagine what it's like to go through that. And I know that these messages are coming forward to help these people.
Yeah. And it doesn't matter what age they are.
No.
That was one thing recently. I had sent Jim's mom and dad a message, and I apologize because I didn't contact when I had found Jim. I didn't contact his parents. I didn't contact anybody. The kids came in and they're like, "Well, who should we call?" I'm like, "Call Julie, which is his sister. Call Julie, then she can get a hold of everybody." Because I know that he had a very close relationship, and I'm not saying that he didn't have a close relationship with his parents, but he was close with his sister Julie. He has another sister named Susie too, but and I had sent her a thing and like, I just want you to know that he cared so much about you guys, but I also want you to know that I'm sorry. I'm sorry I didn't get a hold of you that day. I was, I was not expecting any of this to happen. This was the last thing that was ever that I expected. And she says, she says, I was at this grocery store and she says, I was never mad. She says, I was just trying to process because me being a mom and I've lost my son, my son's no longer here. I feel like a part of me is missing. But I couldn't have seen that when all this first happened because I was dealing with my own grief.
Right.
So to listen to her afterwards, and it's like, I have no clue. I've lost my brother transitioned, my mom transitioned, and Jim transitioned. So it's like I don't have that experience. I don't. And it, like I said, it doesn't matter the age because she's old, they're older, and Jim was 54 when he transitioned. So it's a lot to deal with. It's a lot for that emotional, but I also know at the other side of that, everything happens for our evolution. And it's just however we want to look at it. We can grow from every single situation. Everything I can find a positive from, or like we used to always talk about the gold nuggets. There's always a gold nugget. There always is. There just is. There just is. sometimes we have to reach to find that, but it also changes the energy of the situation. Because we don't have, some people might say, oh, well, that's, if, for an example, if I was going back to a time frame and back to being in the uterus, if I wanted to go all the way back to that time frame and imagine how I was being supported and loved and felt all that stuff, it doesn't change the experience, but it changes the energy of the experience. So you're no longer holding on to something. So then you become more neutral in that space of looking at things. And it really does make a big difference. It really does. But how do we know without going through all these things? I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know. My mom transitioning and my brother transitioning were one thing, but then when Jim transitioned, that like totally threw me off my whole path. My God, I had to look at myself because I couldn't, which I'm having a realization now, I couldn't look at him and be like, well, you're drinking. You know what I mean? I had no one to blame any longer.
Right.
Because that person, that part of the blame was gone. It was no longer happening. It was done.
You can no longer blame him for your unhappiness, but in a
No,
sense you could because he died.
for a little bit, but then it was like, then it was a journey of, this isn't about the transition of Jim. This is about the transition of Bev.
Right. But
Jim always planned on, yeah.
But a lot of people do that.
Yes.
Person's alive, so you're blamed because of their behavior. You're blaming them for your unhappiness, and then they die. And I'm using die for a reason.
Yeah.
They die, and now you're blaming them when they're not even on the planet. You're blaming them now for your unhappiness because they died. That's all internal work, my friends. All internal work, and that's what Beverly's talking about. She no longer had somebody outside of her to blame for her unhappiness, because nobody can make you happy. Nobody on this planet can make you happy or feel joy. That is all internal work.
It is. And if it happens in blips, right? And then you become like, oh, I want some more of that. That's almost like that addiction, looking for that whole little.
I like how you do it, like sifting through. Where is it? Where is it?
Yeah, that's right. It's right. And the truth was, like you said, it wasn't him that was making me unhappy. It wasn't the drinking that was making me unhappy. I was not happy. Yeah. But you could have told me that all day long and I wouldn't have figured it out. It just didn't make sense to me. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? I'm living with someone, that. And
we've had those conversations, you and I. We have had those conversations.
We have. We have.
Off camera, we've had these conversations.
Yeah, we have. But it's important. I feel like it's important for people to hear that. It's because it's not set in stone. And it was a time for me to really look at myself. Like, how have I been? And it's been, Jim will be, this November will be 3 years. Because that's the time here, that's how it's gone. For him, it's probably like a blip. He's like, I'm still right here. He's been here all along, and I get messages from him all the time, which I share with the kids and stuff like that. So, but it's just,
and you have a better communication with him now because you can feel him, you can hear him, you have this. He's so much more readily available to you as well with that connection.
Yeah.
And he's, you're on this new journey about learning about channeling and all that, and he's there to help and encourage you as well in spirit form.
Which is funny, as you're telling me this, I hear gateway. He's the gateway for that. He is the gateway for that, for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's an interesting journey. And so for his parents, for that loss, I prefer to be where I'm at now, that I know that he's still around. There's times that it's, I'm around the kids and I feel their energy, right? And when they're missing him and they're crying about it, I cry with them, because it's like I can feel everything that how they feel. And it makes sense when we're looking at this physical, but that's the thing. We've been trained to look so physical, right? We've been trained to be consumers. We've been trained to be, just be good little boys and girls and go do your job. Right. When we didn't come here, we didn't all like say, oh, I'm going to go down there, play on the planet so I can work 80 hours a week and then complain about not having any time for myself, and then try to raise kids. And then I'll go buy, I'll get a few dogs and some cats and build a farm, and then I'll wonder where my time all went, and now I'm, 1,000 and wondering when is this going to end?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd rather be here enjoying the whole journey the whole way and be all of a sudden like blinking and you're out and it's like, what the fuck, man? I was having a good time. I
Right.
wasn't ready yet.
Yeah.
That's how I would rather be that way instead of being like even at the end of the road, like, oh my gosh, I should have done all this stuff.
Shoulda, coulda, woulda.
Yeah, it doesn't get you anywhere. It keeps you right where you're at.
I had you're talking about loss of kids. I had a conversation with a lady just the other day, and she said she's talking about her 2 children that she had lost in an auto accident 11 years ago. And she's like, I want to celebrate them, but I don't know how. 11 years later. And I'm like, sister. Of course, I have to ask permission. Are you open to hearing ways to do that? So we sat and had that conversation, and I'm like 11 years. But that physical, the lack of the physical and the trauma of how, people transition just puts us in a space where it's not okay for me to celebrate them. It's not okay for me to be joyful and acknowledge them. It's not okay for me to be laughing on the day that they transition, right? So we put ourselves in that container, that box, that prison, that bondage, and we're not meant to do that. Yeah, it's okay to feel the pain and the hurt and the sorrow and the grief, but you're not meant to stay in that.
No. I even had a client recently because her husband had transitioned recently, and she's so afraid that she's going to do something wrong. Like, I was praying, I just wanted to have a dream with him. Is that wrong? Like, is that wrong to be like so afraid that they're doing something wrong? So afraid. And I know that goes much deeper than that. When all along this person would always show on the outside they're happy, always on the happy, cracking jokes and being silly and smiling, and it's like there's so much more to a person, but you don't know until you get to know somebody,
Yeah.
really, until you listen. And it's listening with everything, your whole suit, your antenna, listening with that, listening with your intuition, listening. What are you seeing from your third eye? What are you really hearing right now? Like, really using, and that's play. To be in that space is a play place, because then you start receiving information that's so simple, and it's so beneficial for yourself and the other person that you're having the conversation with.
Yeah.
For everybody else that's out there listening, I know you do this already. It just makes life easier, and then that's where we show up for the greater good of all. Because we're not here to fix somebody because they're not broken, but we're here as a guide, just like our guides that are not in the non-physical right now are here for us. They're here encouraging us along the way, and we're doing the same thing. We're
Right.
guides, just like our guides.
So our guides are helping us because we're more tuned in, and then because we're evolving and growing, we're providing guidance to other people of where they are now, where we used to be.
Yes.
So it's a continuous flow of helping, supporting.
All along the way. And guess what? Our guides don't sit there and like, oh my God, she's doing it again.
Yeah,
She
no
asked us for
labels,
this
no
information.
judgment.
Yeah. She asked us for this information and she's not listening. I gave it to her 15 times in the last 15 seconds.
Right.
And she's still, okay, never mind. I'm done. I'm taking a lunch break for 2 days. I'll be back.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't happen like that. It doesn't happen like that. But they don't have an expectation of us.
Right.
We ask and they give us an answer, and it's up to us at that time to make a choice.
Yeah. Are you up and aware and alert and in the present moment to receive the messages, or do you have your head down in your phone playing a game and oblivious to what's going on around you?
Distraction.
That's the comparison, right? And so
yeah.
So yeah, your guides, your spirit team, they're not rolling their eyes and judging you and can't wait for you to die so that they can get a vacation. They're not doing any of that. They're cheering us on and supporting us and absolutely there to help us.
With love, and that's the same, that's a good, what, that's something to pay attention to. That's how we wanna be,
Yeah.
because it's the same. And if they do make a mistake or whatever, it's not, "I told you so." It's just being there in love and support, being neutral, but still being love and support.
Right.
Neutral in the meaning of not trying to think that you have to go in and fix it and, "Oh my god, you did it again? We just had this conversation, why are you doing this again?"
'Cause when when somebody does that and you give them the side eye, you're just like, that's our guides. They're just like, really? You're gonna do this again? Really? You missed that message too? Heavy sigh.
Nah, they're on the side, they're like, "Yay, she's doing it again. She'll figure it out this time.
Right,
Oh,
right.
she'll figure it out. You'll
I know.
figure it out. They got this."
I like to make it all comical and
Yeah,
like because I I do by that with myself. Really? You overcommitted yourself again? What'd you do that for? Give myself the side eye. Too funny. I
yeah,
just
that is
think it's hilarious actually when I think about our spirit teams watching over us and guiding us and cheering us on and oh look, she stumbled and fell again. She'll get back up. She's gonna get back up. She's gonna keep going. That's been my life journey. Keep going. With hurricane winds and I'm walking against the wind. Yeah, keep going. Like you're gonna get through this. The storm's gonna pass. Keep going. Wasn't fun. I'm not claiming it was fun. I'm not claiming I loved it in any way, shape, or form. But it has contributed to where I'm at right now. So,
absolutely.
and the
Love it.
opposite of that is to blame all those people who contributed to my life experiences that were not fun in no way, shape, or form, and continue to blame them and continue to hang on to the anger and the shame and the guilt and the resentments and continue to live my life in that space until I take my last breath. That's the option. That was the option. And I didn't like it in my teens and my 20s. And so without having that and asking the questions, is there something more to life? What's the purpose of life? Why are we here? I wouldn't receive the information and the guidance that I've received with which Bev and I show up now every week and talk about. So
We talk about our life experiences.
yeah.
It's what's going on in our life and how we're processing it, how we're looking at it, how we could look at it, right?
Yeah.
This, we're just freaking showing up and talking about our stuff.
Right.
Being vulnerable. We're practicing being vulnerable on a regular basis.
And not just with each other, like how many millions of people could watch this? Like this is out in the ethers, man. We're just like, here it is. What you do with it's your business. If you
That's
resonate,
right.
not, that's okay too.
Yeah, no biggie. It's not a big deal. It's a journey. So I hope everyone finds their journey to be
Yeah.
pleasant and gravitate towards whatever you hear. And anytime they hear anything that we say, that it gives them something that they can work with to evolve.
Right. Learn, implement, grow. That's all you need to remember. Learn, implement, grow. If you want something different in your life, takes you as the person to make the changes that you want to have a better life. Nobody can do
Agreed.
that for you.
Nobody. And you wouldn't want them to do it for you anyways. Because
Well, you
that's
wouldn't
no
learn
fun.
anyway. You
No,
would grow. You would you wouldn't get
no.
better because you're dependent on somebody else to take care of it for you.
Yeah. 100%.
Any final words?
Make a magical week.
Absolutely. All right, my friends. That is our conversation for today. Hope you got something out of it. Thanks for hanging out with us. Tea Time with Amy and Bev. Share it with your friends. You know, there's somebody that could benefit from this conversation. So with that, thank you for your time and energy, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.